Annual Computational Science Symposium. We're really happy that you've taken some time out of your week to join us here with PhUSE. So this is a really unique meeting for those of you who were not here last night. First of all, shame on you for not being here. But thank you for showing up this morning. We really appreciate it. It's a unique opportunity to collaborate with your peers in industry, with the folks from the regulatory agency. So how many people have been here for the full 7 years of the symposium? Okay, that's a reasonable number. So you probably heard a couple of different anecdotes for the, or FDA anecdotes actually, for the meeting, whether it's building the plane while flying or making contributions to the soup. So this is a really unique opportunity for you to make a contribution, to continue to build this plane. And I'm going to hand it over to Crystal Allard, who has graciously, with her FDA colleagues, going to run a session about what it's like to be an FDA reviewer. So I'm looking forward to this. Crystal, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning. So we've decided to do something slightly different this year, and it isn't just asking questions through Poll Everywhere, so don't worry. But we are hoping that this will be an interactive session. So one of the things that we're going to ask you to do is either download, oh, the poll is full. Interesting. To download the Poll Everywhere app, if you haven't already. You can also go to pollev.com/JessieJ511. It used to be on the screen, but it's now replaced with Poll is full. So I'll remind you soon. Give me a minute. All right, my name is Crystal Allard, and I work in the Office of Computational Science at FDA. We have participated in the PhUSE opening session for all the years, I think. And so we wanted to do something just a little bit different this year. We're going to start with a video, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed that you don't hear the traffic report or sports radio.
This video introduces you to the Office of Computational Science, also known as OCS, and how it serves reviewers by providing analytical tools and services. There are 4 phases in the drug life cycle: non-clinical, investigational, application review, and post-marketing. At OCS, we have tools, services, and trainings that correspond to each phase of the drug life cycle and review process. This is a summary of OCS tools, services, and training by phase, but it is by no means intended to be comprehensive. Instead, it highlights the main OCS support that is available. OCS offers the Jumpstart service for clinical data and the Kickstart service for non-clinical data to assist reviewers early in the review process. Both services aim to give reviewers a better understanding of their data, provide important information that enables them to conduct an effective review, and free up more time for reviewers to apply their scientific expertise. Both services require receipt of standardized data in order to assess the quality of the data using DataFit. Then the data is loaded into review tools, such as the SAS analysis panels, Jump Clinical, and Janus. Next, the OCS team performs a series of exploratory analyses, creating various graphs, tables, and visualizations for the review. These results are discussed with the review team during scheduled sessions. OCS also offers ongoing support through the OCS Service Desk and assistance with tools training. OCS offers many resources, such as trainings, the tool guide for reviewers, the reviewer portal, scientific computing services, and the OCS Service Desk.
Okay, so that's just a very brief overview of what we do in OCS. We know that in years past we've presented on the Jumpstart service fairly in depth in different and meaningful ways. So we wanted to make sure that we were doing something different. So if you've attended before, then you probably haven't seen any of the stuff that we're going to present today. It should be new pieces of the Jumpstart service, so it should really be new to other folks. If you have any questions about Jumpstart, and if you have any questions about what the full service looks like or what we've presented previously, you can always go back into the PhUSE archive. There's lots of information there. And also, I just wanted to give a quick plug for our table. We have a little table over in the lobby that is specific to our office, OCS, and anyone who has questions is welcome to stop by, and we will answer them for probably longer than you asked, so consider yourself warned. Okay, so today we're going to ask folks to pretend that you're a clinical reviewer. So that's the mindset that we're hoping folks will come with. The Jumpstart service was created to assist reviewers in making decisions. One of the major decisions that they have to make is a filing determination. It's one of the first things that they have to do when an application comes in the door, and it's going to be the focus for the Jumpstart analyses that we talk about today. Just a little bit of background information about the Jumpstart service to help you level set and get familiar with where you are. So not all applications received at CEDAR receive a Jumpstart service. Many do, but not all. Not all of the Jumpstart analyses are included today. We talked a little bit about why that is, but also because of time, we haven't included everything. And we've used dummy data to generate the reports. So there should be nothing familiar in the data to you because it's dummy data. Okay, so the poll everywhere. We are really hoping that this session will be very interactive. What that means is we're going to pause periodically and open the floor for any sort of questions. In some cases, we'll ask you a question, and you have the option to answer using poll everywhere or to go to a mic. They are there and there, but we can pass them around too. And you can answer using the mic, or if you have a question, you can ask a question. Please don't be afraid to interact a little bit. I know we're kind of standing up here, but during a Jumpstart session, what we do is we present a set of reports, and then we look at the reviewer and go, does that make sense to you? Is that clear? Do you have any questions? So if you're pretending to be a reviewer, such is your right today to ask questions. This is the poll everywhere link. Is everyone ready for me to, I see people, I'm gonna wait a minute. I see people still doing things. You can go to a browser, or you can download the app, you have the option. And so we'll toggle back and forth between Prezi and poll everywhere, and we'll show the answers. Oh, here we go. Oh, and we're full. I didn't know that could happen. If we get too full, use the microphone. So here's a rendition of the 21st century review process. This is the review process by which a reviewer receives an application and needs to make a decision. The first thing that they do are the pre-submission activities. These are the things that they do to get prepared for the receipt of the application. There are meetings involved, there's planning, there are assignments. That all happens in this pre-submission space. Month 0 is the start date of the receipt of the application. That starts the clock. So there's a congressionally mandated timeline for how long review takes for a reviewer. They don't get to request an extension. When they receive an application, and usually by the time a reviewer receives an application, and Alan can tell you because he used to do this, a couple of days have already been lost in transit, right? So day 0 is when the timeline starts. And then within the first month to month and a half, the reviewer is forced. Filing means that the application is reviewable, that they can use what's contained within the application to make a decision, to determine safety, to determine efficacy, to be navigated, to use the data. And the vast majority of the Jumpstart service, the data quality piece, really focuses on this filing decision and helping reviewers develop an understanding of what's contained within their data before the filing meeting so that they can feel very confident that they've made a good filing decision. The filing planning meetings, these are the meetings where they get together and they discuss whether or not they're going to file the application. It also is the place where they discuss how they're going to do their review, what they're missing, whether they need to ask a sponsor for more information, those sorts of things. Within a couple of months after that, they have the mid-cycle meeting. The expectation generally at the mid-cycle is that they've finished their review of the application. It's not a very long time period before they have to finish their review. And then there are a number of other review activities that happen before the wrap-up at month 8 and the action date are fully finished and the letter is sent and all of that stuff. There's a lot that happens within this review process. We've oversimplified it, but this is the general idea. So today we're going to really focus on the first 2 months of a review, which is the filing application, right? And so you'll see this is our little flow, and we're hoping to take you through all of the different steps that a Jumpstart service does to assist a reviewer in understanding their data before filing. So when a reviewer gets an application, they're not automatically assigned a Jumpstart service. I think there might be some misconceptions about how a Jumpstart service is received, but some reviewers receive Jumpstart, and when they do, there's this like sort of kickoff process whereby we ask them a bunch of questions about what they want to do with their data, what questions they want to answer with their data, the start of the Jumpstart service. Just to level set a little bit, Jumpstart uses SDTM and ADAM data. This is a requirement, so the first thing the Jumpstart team does is check the data to ensure that it's in SDTM format and that it's in ADAM format. And then there are 3 major pieces of the data fitness or the data quality portion of Jumpstart. The one is the SDTM assessment, where they really look through the defined file, the SDRG, all of the SDTM domains. They're trying to look for potential information requests, anything that a reviewer might need to know in order to use the data. They do an SDTM to ADAM traceability assessment, and then they do a summary of the ISS documents and ADAM data sets provided within an ISS assessment. Alan is going to get into this in much more detail soon. Core data fitness. This is new this year. We are piloting it right now. It's not fully rolled out as part of the Jumpstart service. All of the reviewers who receive a Jumpstart service are receiving a core data fitness assessment. However, we're telling them that it's a pilot and we're asking for their feedback, and we are incorporating that feedback into a very agile development process. I mean that literally, agile development process. We're agile now. So the core DF assessments are a result of the Jumpstart service being so successful. What we heard from reviewers was that they wanted more, and we knew that we couldn't provide a Jumpstart service to every single reviewer in the way that it currently was created. So we created assessments that are a set of reports that Helena is going to show you in just a minute that are intended to be automated. They're intended to provide data quality information for clinical reviewers. They're intended to come very early in the process because they're push button. There's no manual intervention. We run them and we send them to the reviewers. They highlight common data quality errors identified through years of review. We've sort of whittled down the ones that we see most commonly, and those are the ones that have showed up in the core DF reports. They're intended to be standalone and self-explanatory, meaning that eventually, because we'll be able to provide them to so many reviewers, they'll get them in the absence of a Jumpstart service, which means they'll get them in the absence of a Jumpstart analyst, which means that a reviewer will have to digest them themselves and without support. Currently, about 75% of the data quality information that's usually provided during a Jumpstart service is available in the core DF reports. And Helena's going to take you through them.
Hi everyone, welcome, good morning. My name is Helena Schviglin. I'm in the Office of Computational Science in CEDAR at FDA. Before I get started though, I just want to get a little bit of a head count and acknowledgement here. How many non-clinical folks do we have in the room, people who touch clinical data work? Okay, good, welcome. I'm glad you're here. We want to see more of you. I want you guys to all know that everything we're talking about right now is focused on the clinical aspect of review, but we're also developing this parallel functions in our non-clinical realm. So maybe next year we'll have we'll do this all over again. You can tell us how you feel about that. Also, I want to know how many folks here work with regulatory agencies or are from a non-FDA regulatory agency. Raise their hands. Hi, PIMDA. Good morning. I'm glad you guys are here. All right, thanks. I just wanted to get a feeling for the room. So here we are. You guys are reviewers. You're clinical reviewers in CEDAR. You've gotten an application, and you're trying to make a filing decision, and you've been lucky enough to get a Jumpstart service. So one of the first things you might get is an email with some of these reports attached to that, and I'm going to walk you guys through some of them. We've got, 30 or so canned reports in what we call our core DF series of reports, and they're constantly evolving. But one of our earliest reports, and one of the feedback we've gotten of one of the most useful reports we have, is an AE term matching report. AE is for an adverse event. Term matching is talking about the coding that goes from a verbatim term that would be reported in your AE term variable in an AE data set to an AE decode variable in the AE data set. Now, reviewers, and Alan can tell you this, reviewers have to assess the coding quality within these. And prior to reports like this, they would have to do this manually, line by line. So, and human beings are actually not very good at doing that kind of repetitive work. So we developed a report that allows them to assess that coding quality. And so here is an example of one. Again, this is dummy data. And this is you can see here, it's not, page down. There we go. So these are some questions that a reviewer might have looking through that report. A term match, so you see here you have a score. That the first thing that really slows or kind of gives a reviewer pause, it might be giving you some of the, in the audience pause, though you guys look pretty awake for a Monday morning, is what does that score mean? What does it mean? So what this report does, it literally takes a keystroke by keystroke comparison of what is in the AE term variable versus what is in the AE decode. And it gives a score based on that comparison. It compares also, it's pretty smart in that it also looks what's in the verbatim term and looks for a preferred term in MEDRA and all of the lower level terms that map up to that preferred term. So if there is an exact match in the verbatim term to a lower level term, that gives a specific score, and that's in the match details, so you know what you're matching to. If you get 100%, that means it's a dead ringer. Their exact match to either a preferred term or a lower level term in the specified MEDRA dictionary. And so if you're having to do a line-by-line match to assess coding quality, you might want to, as a reviewer, you just might want to take the hundreds and move them right on out because you know that those are not going to be your problem. I think it's important here to recognize that just because the score is less than 100 doesn't mean that it's of poor coding quality. There is no medical context given to this match. It is simply keystroke to keystroke comparison. So even those with a score of 0 could be perfect coding, but you can start to look at it from that way. Sometimes, as for a reviewer, if you're looking for a particular kind of signal, you might want to hone in using the smart filters. This is just a screenshot, and we'll look at the reports in a second. You might want to hone in on a particular event that you might want to assess as a safety signal or quality signal and see how those particular things are coded. So this is something about this particular data here. As a reviewer, you might look at that and you might want to ask this question to yourself because you see that there's some different kind of coding going on with something called a hypoglycemic event. So if you, I'm not a clinician, but this is where it's a blood sugar issue, so your blood sugars are too low and it's causing symptoms. And a lot of these are coded very differentially. So things that look like they might have a signal as a hypoglycemic event, they're dispersed through various preferred terms. Now they might all ultimately map up higher in the hierarchy of something of interest, but if you're doing, and some of our canned analyses also look on preferred terms. So if you're looking for the response to an analysis based on a preferred term and your verbatim terms are skewed across multiple preferred terms, is your signal being diluted? So tell me what you guys think. Let's go to our poll. Nope, not this one. Back. So what we're doing right now is that question that we had in the report, on the AE term report, we're going to do a poll anywhere aspect, and so you guys can pull out your phones, you've seen the question, and I'm just so if you have a response about that, about whether or not that you think that signal is diluted or what you think is going on with that coding, you can be prepared to answer that.
Or use a mic.
Or use a mic. And then after we do the polling part, we'll actually go and look at the report. So does anyone want to come to the mic and give some thoughts or have any specific questions about that report that we had? Raise your hand and Kevin will come and hand you a microphone, or you can stand up and speak.
I had a question that was probably to do with machine learning, but even as human learning, do you take a record of where those terms don't match? When someone said it's a 0% match simply by the lettering, do you record that and then have to do that again on a subsequent report? So does it remember the decisions that the humans have made with those?
I don't believe it does, right? So if we, the report would change, so you're speaking as a sponsor and not asking a question as a reviewer, I presume, but that's okay. I want to make sure I understand your question.
Yeah, okay, it's the same question.
Yeah.
Do we do that as reviewers? Are we able to do that? So my work is not wasted when I've been through the 30 or so terms. When we come to do a similar study, will I have to do the same thing again?
Well, I don't think reviewers ever have to give a reckoning of the coding, but if they want to reliably interpret or generalize the results of their analysis, they want to understand the underlying, I mean, I do whenever I analyze data, I want to understand the underlying data quality or data issues with that. So no, at this time, if you were as a sponsor, if you were to resubmit a different adverse event domain or data set to the agency and we ran the report again, there would be no record of that this changed or that changed. Because if you resubmit, that becomes the data of record.
So I didn't mean that. Let me rephrase it again. It is Monday
Sure.
and my brain's not completely fired on that. So I've sat here as a reviewer and I've looked at the verbatim text and I've compared it to the AED code and it's given a score of 0.
Yes.
And I've gone, oh no, but that's correct. I want to mark that as correct. So when that verbatim text is used again in the future...
Oh, yeah. No,
so
okay, I think I
have to sit and
understand.
do that again. I've just spent 3 hours of that very short time period
Right.
that I've got to do.
No, so we have not adapted, I mean, that is a goal, that is an aspirational goal for us in this report, to have reviewer identified text matches, like the one that I always use when I'm explaining to non-reviewers is the word neck for this part of the human body, and the word cervical, which is the more medical term that can refer to the vertebrae within the neck, are very often used synonymously, especially in verbatim terms. That would have a 0% match if you were to code something like my neck hurts or neck hurts to, the preferred term. That doesn't mean that's bad coding quality. It could actually be perfect coding quality. That 0 is just an indication of where the needle might be in the haystack. It doesn't say that here's a needle. It just says it might be here. Now, it would be great, and we haven't done this yet, where we've been able to add beyond Medra to say this particular term is like in effect an FDA identified lower level term to a preferred term. That's aspirational, but we don't do that yet. Did that answer your question? Okay, so here's the poll. Our people are answering. This is great. So are we going to be able to see any of these answers, or just that they're answering?
Yes and no.
Okay. Respond. Is a hypo deleted? Yes. 81. See, that's what I would have thought. That's what I think too, to look at that. Now, there's no definitive answer to that. We'd have to go and look at the atom. We'd have to go and look at the other signals. Maybe the first question a reviewer might ask when they see are concerned with the signal, they might say, well, what arm are these subjects in that this is happening? And they might be more concerned if they see this happening, clustering more in specific arms versus other arms. Let's go to the reports. So you guys, does anyone want to see the actual report? Oh, we have a question.
Yeah, I have a question too. This kind of report is something that reviewer produce, or is it something they get from the sponsor?
We, the Office of Computational Science and our amazing contractors and staff, we produce these reports for the reviewer and we make them available to the reviewer. We're moving towards a self-service model, but we're not there yet. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did everyone hear the question? Is it how do these reports get generated? Okay. All right. Does anyone want to see the actual report and scroll through it and play, or want to click through? Okay, John says yes. So if John wants it, I'm going to. Jesse. Okay. Thank you. Can't see it. So this is so that screenshot that we had before, this is the actual a suite of reports. Here's our summary page that is the top of every set of CorDF reports that orients the reviewer to the kinds of reports that they have and what the study is. And we can linger here, but I'm going to go, we can come back to this, but I'm going to go to the actual AE coding report and let you guys look at it. So does anyone want to pretend like they're a reviewer and ask a specific question and we can drive through the report, or do you want me to drive through and look at some stuff? John, do you want to see anything in particular? Okay, so as promised, what I might want to do here is using the smart filters in Excel, which I love in Excel. It's the only thing I use. Here, we might want to, I might be alarmed and go, oh dear.